Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Somerville Planning Board. It is 6:04 p.m. on December 21st, 2023. I am Mike Capuano. I'm the chairman of the Planning Board. With me tonight is Amelia Aboff, who is our vice chair. We also have Jahan Habib, who is our clerk, and Luke Schuster as well. We have a quorum to proceed with the Planning Board meeting, and I am very glad to see that the attendees list is filling in. Because prior to starting this thing, it showed 0, which would have made for a very quick and easy night. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting of the Planning Board will be conducted via remote participation. A video recording of these proceedings will be available on the city's website or by emailing planning@somervillema.gov. This meeting is being recorded. We have a number of items on our agenda tonight, some of which have previously been opened. And I believe we also have 2 new cases, 288 Highland Avenue and 30 Bow Street. So I'm going to ask for the clerk of the planning board to please read into the notice, into the public record, the notice of public hearing for those 2 cases.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. 30 Bow Street, PNZ 23-068, Modern Love LLC seeks to establish an alcohol sales principal use along a pedestrian street in the Mid-Rise 3 MR3 district, which requires a special permit. 288 Highland Avenue, ZP 23-000052, Lotus Yoga Studio LLC seeks to establish a fitness service principal use along a pedestrian street in the Mid-Rise 4 MR4 district, which requires a special permit. Mr. Chair.
Yes. We also have a number of items that have previously been opened that we'll be dealing with tonight. We have 45 Mystic Avenue. That applicant has requested a continuance to January 4th, 2024. The chair moves to continue that agenda item to January 4th, seconded by Amelia. If I could ask Bryce to please call the roll.
This is Rice speaking. Michael Capuano.
Aye.
Amelia Aboff. Jahan Habib.
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
Okay, that agenda item is continued to the 4th of January. The other items on our agenda, and I'll be taking them up in this order. We're taking 620 Broadway first, and I'll be taking 28 to 44 Broadway. Then I'll be taking 2 to 4 Alpine Street, and then we will deal with the 2 cases that Jahan just read in. So if I could please have the applicant and their representative, 620 Broadway, please be unmuted, and have whoever screen share needs to be shared, and whatever staff person wants to make a presentation or engage in the discussion to make sure that they're identified.
This is Rice speaking. I see Bill Proa's hand raised and a Stalin Kambiska. I will unmute everyone that I see. This is Rice speaking again. If someone can let me know who the presenter will be, I will make that person into a presenter.
Hi, Rice. So this is Bill. Can you hear me?
This is Rice
We can
speaking.
hear
We
you.
hear you.
Thank you. Could you please allow Peter, Quinn, and Estelin as well to be presenters? And I think Tom Laughlin is here, and he's our traffic engineer to answer any questions in that area as well. Thank you.
This is Rice speaking. Both Estelin and Peter have been promoted to panelists and should be able to share their screen at this time. Thomas has also been unmuted as well and able to speak at any time.
Thank you. It's Bill again. Mr. Chair, members of the board, good evening. Thank you for hearing us this evening.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if Emily's here. I didn't know if she wanted to go first, but I can, oh, hi, Emily. I can just bring you up to date quickly if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Last time we had some outstanding issues related to the TAP and the loading plan. Excuse me. And I wanted to thank the planning staff and mobility. I don't know if they're here tonight, but they were very helpful and responsive getting back to us and providing us additional guidance. So we do believe that we have a final TAP revised showing all the outstanding comments as of the last time we met with the board. And that has been uploaded to both the planning staff and the mobility sites. So I hope that everyone that wants to look at that document would be able to at this point. And I think that was the topic of conversation last time. So I'll just leave it there. And if there are additional questions, you know, our team's here to answer as we move along. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Proya. I don't have any questions for your team at this point. I might not in a few minutes, but right now I don't. I was hoping that if Emily, if you're the appropriate staff person on this application, we had kind of the long history of this particular application involved a review by the ZBA to identify whether the variance that it had issued was still valid and had been acted upon and appropriately executed such that it would preserve the variance into this date. And it's my understanding that the ZBA has determined that the variance has been executed and that the applicant's variance is still in full force and effect. Is that right?
Mr. Chair, this is Emily Hutchings through you. That is correct. The ZBA made the determination that the variance has been exercised and so remains in full force and effect.
Great. The primary issue that I recall the planning board had the last time we met was an outstanding transportation plan that needed to be vetted and reviewed by the city's mobility division. It's my understanding that the updated TAP has been reviewed by mobility, and I believe they have issued a favorable report back on that. If you could talk to us a little bit about what that is, or if there's a different appropriate staff person to discuss the findings by mobility on that issue, I think we would all appreciate trying to figure out where we are, because that's kind of been a question that was kind of hovering over this project for a while.
Mr. Chair, through you again, Emily Hutchings. I'm here. I'm joined tonight by Greg Hannafin in the Mobility Department, so I can provide an overview, and if you have questions that go into detail, I think Greg would be the best person to answer them. But the applicant did provide an updated transportation access plan. It integrated the updated conceptual signage and pavement markings plan that addressed the loading and the goals for updated for Broadway for that transformation with the pavement markings and the changes that we anticipate sometime in the near future. So everything in the TAP is up to date. It matches the conceptual plan that was approved by the Mobility Division, and the full updated TAP has also been approved by the Mobility Division. There is one slightly updated condition that is being proposed by staff that requires the applicant to fulfill that pavement markings plan and help carry it out. At this point, it is just a conceptual plan because the city is not at the point with the redesign of Broadway where anything further is able to be designed. So the updated condition requires the applicant to assist with final designs and help carry out the appropriate sections of Broadway in front of the building. before a certificate of occupancy can be completed, can be approved. But at this time, we think everything that has been submitted appropriately mitigates any concerns we have, so we don't have any additional concerns at this time.
Okay. I know we had a number of discussions and presentations by the applicant and their team on the nature of this project. We've had testimony that was taken, both oral and written. The planning board is engaged in some detailed discussion on this project. So I'm wondering if there is any further discussion or questions by members of the board, of this applicant team, or of staff at this time. Yes, Amelia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we prepare to move forward on this application, I was just revisiting before the meeting the additional memo that had been provided to us over the summer on the sustainability intentions for the project. And I think we had noted in much earlier conversation that there was some ambiguity as to whether or not solar panels were to be provided as part of the project, or whether the roof was simply being designed to be solar panel ready. I believe the applicant had in that memo articulated that they intended to provide solar panels. And if that is indeed the case, I wonder if they would be open to that as a permit condition.
Hi, through you, Mr. Chair, this is Bill Proya. Yes, we, in the letter as well, I think we had provided expressly that we would be open to a condition committing us to using the roof for solar energy. Yes,
Thank you.
of course.
Anybody else that has any questions or comments of the applicant, or of staff, or discussion by and between members of the board? Okay. Seeing none. One more check of hands. I see Luke.
Just raising my hand because I saw Emily's hand raised. It wasn't.
Oh, sorry. I had already toggled away from all of you, so you're lucky as I am. Sorry.
I apologize, Mr. Chair. I did just want to note through you that there is a condition proposed in the November supplemental staff memo requiring the confirmation of installation and operation of roof-mounted solar prior to a certificate of occupancy, noting that it was voluntarily proposed in the site plan application. I did also want to note, I forgot to mention before, there is a revised condition in the December memo and a new condition that will require all vehicles used for loading and delivery to be no larger than 30 feet in length. Again, I just wanted to explain that this is because that is how the delivery zone, that on-street delivery zone is designed. So we think it's a sufficient location. We just wanted to add that condition in there to ensure that the trucks that are delivery trucks meet the requirements of that loading area.
Thank you for explaining the updated and amended conditions. Anything else before I toggle away from you? Okay. Seeing none, following public testimony, review of the submitted materials, and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the zoning ordinance, I move to approve with the most updated conditions laid out in the most updated staff memorandum, the site plan approval to develop a one-story commercial building in the Commercial Core 5 district. Seconded by Amelia. If I could ask Raisa to please call the roll.
This is Raisa speaking. Michael Capuano,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
Following public testimony, review of the submitted materials, and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the zoning ordinance, I move to approve with the most updated conditions and the most updated staff memorandum, the special permit to establish a cannabis retail sales use in the commercial core 5 district, seconded by Amelia. Like that, Bryce call the roll.
Michael Capuano,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
We have unanimous vote. Congratulations. Good luck.
Very good. Thank you all. Most appreciated. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to be taking the applicant for 28 to 44 Broadway next. If that applicant and team can please be unmuted, shared, anything that's helpful for the purpose of our discussion.
This is Rice speaking. I see Jennifer Schultz hand raised. Jennifer, you've been unmuted.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So we are returning to you tonight, hopefully with a mutually amenable, alternative, creative proposal for the TDM measure relating to the MBTA passes and the bike share passes, as discussed at previous meetings relating to our application for an amendment to the special permit for 44 Broadway. As I'm sure you all recall, we are looking at an 85-unit residential property with approximately 8,500 square feet of retail at the ground level, providing a total of 21 parking spaces on site. In coming up with our revised proposal that I will cover very briefly now, what we looked at is first, as a jumping off point, the discussion from the last meeting by Chair Member Aboff and Chairman Capuano, by Member Aboff and Chairman Capuano regarding, a potential sunset concept. I know that the chairman at the last hearing had mentioned 6 months as a potential proposal for the passes, and that we had also discussed trying to find a dual pathway where both the actual traffic impacts of the project were appropriately mitigated against, while at the same time ensuring that the project remained financially feasible so it could actually be built. And so without further ado, here is our revised proposal. Looking at the 21 parking spaces on site, of those spaces, there are actually only 15 that will be made available to the residential tenants in the building. And that arises directly out of the MMP for the project, which requires a minimum of 4 of those parking spaces to be provided for the commercial tenant on the ground floor, and that 2 of the parking spaces be provided as car share spaces, not rented individually to unit holders. So we began by saying, in light of the fact that there will be 15 parking spaces available to residential tenants of the building, what could we do that I could get my client and the investor to say yes to mitigate against those impacts. And so what we would like to propose is a 9-year phased out condition, whereby for any residential tenant that rents a space, so again, talking about those 15 spaces, that in years 1, 2, and 3 of the 9-year sunset that I just mentioned, 6-month passes, both bike share and MBTA passes, are offered to up to 2 residents, obviously depending on who actually is the tenant that rents. If it's a studio with a single person, then it would be 1, and so on. And so it would basically be at the opening of the building. For anyone who rents a parking space as a residential tenant, you get a 6-month MBTA pass and a 6-month bike share pass. And if those parking spaces are turned over during, at any point, years 1, 2, and 3, The new renter of the parking space is provided with a 6-month pass for each of those. And so that is in place for years 1, 2, and 3, whenever the turnover of those space rentals actually occurs. And then starting to phase down in years 4, 5, and 6. Again, at the turnover of any space rental. So it doesn't necessarily mean at the turnover of a lease. It's, if the unit owner in 103 stops renting and, 105 steps in. I don't know if those are actually the unit numbers. So years 4, 5, and 6, we would offer 4 months of passes, both MBTA and bike share passes, to anyone renting those spaces, again, on repeat, depending on when the spaces turn over for their rent. And then moving into the final phase down, years 7, 8, and 9, offering 2 months of passes, again, both the MBTA and bike share to anyone who rents them, and that being provided again at the turnover of any of the spaces being rented. And so with that proposal, we feel like it both, directly speaks to the actual traffic impacts, given that the, for the renters in this building, they are not allowed to have residential parking permits in the neighborhood. And so if they're coming with a car, they are only going to do so if they get one of those spaces. So that our hope is that 9 years would be enough time to hopefully set a positive transit-oriented trend to really work against the impacts earlier on, but then also to do so in a manner so that my client and their investor are able to proceed forward to the next step, which will be constructing the project and getting going. So happy to answer any questions and appreciate the opportunity to return and discuss.
I appreciate that that creative mitigation that you put forward. I have some thoughts, but I'd love to hear any comments or questions from my colleagues before I weigh in, if you all have any. Yeah, Amelia.
Mr. Chair, I'm very interested to hear your thoughts, but I appreciate the applicant's approach, not just to sort of what will the planning board accept, but what will actually have an impact on the traffic patterns of this neighborhood and the behavior patterns of these tenants. So I appreciate the thoughtful approach that went into the proposal that we're hearing this evening.
Beto? I actually completely share what Amelia just said. When I was listening to your presentation, I think what you and your client have proposed is the right mitigation for the impact that the project will have on the neighborhood. We're talking about 15 units that will have access to a space, and how do we mitigate additional vehicles being in that neighborhood, right? Because everybody else either won't have a car or will have to privately garage it elsewhere. And so by incentivizing the people that do have vehicles in the building that are within the walk shed to perhaps move to an alternative mode of transportation, I think what you're proposing is a very good compromise, and seems to address the very specific issues that were raised by both the board and by the nature of kind of the project and the plan that you've set forward. So as one member, I think that's a very good compromise. I think it speaks to the intent that we have for some of these projects that are within the transit zones. And so I definitely don't want to force your client to not be able to build something that we've been waiting to be built for quite a while, on something that might be at this point a little bit of a kind of finite detail. If I don't want it to be 6 months, I want it to be 8 months. That's to me, that's neither here nor there. I think you've kind of met the problem where it is, and I appreciate the solution that you've come up with.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Luke.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Couple thoughts. One is, so I guess starting, mostly agree with my colleagues and like the possibility of finding a way for the project to move forward. Just raise a couple thoughts I'm having on the fly. One is, it would have helped to hear this ahead of time, just rather than on the fly. I was like frantically taking notes, and so this is a reaction totally on the fly. I track the argument for giving the car space renters the MBTA pass and the bike membership to discourage them from using the car for the space that they're renting. The thing I'm just processing on the fly is like, it seems a little weird to, in a way, then those 15 households or people will be getting triple bang for their renting of the spot buck, where they're going to rent the spot, and then as a bonus, they get an MBTA pass and Blue Bikes membership all at once. Maybe that's just good, I guess, to hope they don't use the car, but seems like a slightly weird thing, just like thinking sort of equity across everybody who might be living in the building. I don't know. Again,
So,
just kind of reacting on the fly, but
That's a very good point, Luke. I think we had discussed, and Attorney Schultz, tell me if I'm wrong, I think it was 1 month passes going to be provided to everybody else as well.
Mr. Chair, if I might, so that had originally been our proposal, I guess one and or two ago. That is no longer the proposal with this alternative that we have put out there. And the way that we look at it is that there's really a difference between mitigation of impact and community benefits. And on a project like this, which other than the residential use, sort of just by the nature of the zoning required a special permit, the project was otherwise as of right. And therefore, I think sort of the proof is in the pudding why there are not, a large cadre of outside the zoning ordinance community benefits or covenants being requested here, because it isn't an outsized project, that conflicts with the ordinance and what it desires for dimension, size, number of units, and things like that. And therefore, that's why we focused directly and specifically and frankly exclusively on what an appropriate mitigation for the actual measurable impact would be, without going above and beyond to also cross over into sort of what I would describe as the separate category of community benefit reaching outside of the impacts directly caused by the project.
Thank you. Luke, did you have any other questions or comments that you wanted to raise? Because kind of not in response, but to join the point that you made, Luke, I'm hoping this is going to incentivize people that are using those 15 spaces to use public transit a little bit more. Or I think you also said bike share use as well. So the reality is people have cars, they need cars, not necessarily for every outing, but people do need them. And so I think what this is hopefully going to do is say, okay, you need your car to go grocery shopping, but you don't necessarily need it to go, to the park and play basketball or something. So I'm hoping it's going to be put in a nice medium where people who do want to have cars at this particular building can have them, but they're also incentivized to utilize other modes of transportation. So as one member, I'm happy with this compromise. I'm glad we got to this point. I'm glad we had these discussions, and I'm ready to move forward with this application if my colleagues are as well. Yeah, Amelia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say, Luke, I absolutely agree with your sort of gut reaction on the equity issue for it. That was my initial reaction also. But I do think that having heard the testimony in the original application of the neighborhood and the concerns around traffic generation as we reduce the garage count, that I feel confident that this is an appropriate response that is addressing the actual on the ground concern that sort of sprung out of this. Just personally, so I hear your argument and concern. And I was
It looks
thinking,
like we have a new alternate, by the way.
He won't come back now that he's been called out.
Ah, come on, we don't bite much.
Mike was gonna make him state his name for the record. I am wondering if there is one additional cost neutral strategy that we might employ here. And I know this is late to be asking, but I will raise it just in case. I have not reviewed the plans for this project in a few weeks now. But I believe that there was an interior bike room. That's something we're typically seeing in residential development. And I know that at another recent multifamily project that we permitted, we asked the applicant to organize the bike room such that it was more friendly to cargo bikes for a number of spaces. And I thought that was a really good dialogue to have. And I wonder in a cost neutral way to support the use of alternative modes of transportation, whether the applicant might consider, if it is just a matter of bike rack layout, if that is something that could possibly be accommodated. I realize this is a very late thought, but I don't think there's much of an implication to it. That's something that other folks would entertain. And for the benefit of the applicant team and the other project we were discussing, this was because it is a building that is intended to house, a mix of family sizes. And we know that cargo bikes can be quite useful, especially for folks who are using bicycles as a primary mode of transportation or with families. So that was the rationale that had come up previously.
If I may, I just got the yes, say yes text. So yes, we accept.
Thank you for your consideration of that.
Thank you.
Andrew, did you want to join the conversation?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Or
Chair.
did that solve your need to speak?
No, through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to provide some feedback from staff that this proposal that the applicant has brought up tonight was shared to staff via email at 5:21 this evening. So we have not had a chance from staff's perspective to review it, as well as mobility staff. They did not have a chance to review it as well. So we can't provide any feedback in this sort of quick turnover. But I will point out that with MMPs, a project of this size obviously is required to have an approved mobility management plan and the more standard condition around transit passes and blue bike passes with the 1 month with a turnaround for every new tenant is a standard across the board. And I know if we lost that for all residents that it potentially could sort of deviate from the mobility's intent with dictating behavioral change. Of course, we understand, TDM goals and measures and trying to move sort of the right people in the right direction, especially if those who have cars. But in this case, it's 15 parking spaces and then everyone else wouldn't have a vehicle. So I just wanted to point that out there, just again, from staff's perspective. In terms of typically how this is handled just across the board with MMPs and that sort of standard condition, if that's helpful for the board. And then one last thing I'll add at this time is that when you do move forward to the vote, I just wanted to remind the board just to be very specific with the conditions that are being applied. Because staff did recommend one in their staff memo that it seems like will be moot at this point. And I just wanted to make sure that they're called out so that they're reflected in the decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Andrew, thank you for your comments. I share staff's concern about kind of the late nature of this presentation, but I think I would like to think this is something that has been in the works to see if this is something that could be an appropriate presentation to the planning board, because this is a discussion that we've had over the last couple of weeks for them to come up with something to be able to present to us. I also share your concern that this somewhat goes against mobility's standard conditioning for the 1 month, for maybe behavior modification, but at the same time, you also recognize that outside of these 15 spaces, people won't have cars to begin with, or at least they want to, parking passes to begin with. So their behavior is already restricted to some degree. So I'm not, for this particular project, I'm not terribly concerned with that. What I would ask is the applicant or Attorney Schultz specifically to reiterate very carefully the proposed what do you call it? Blue Bike and MBTA pass phase out that was proposed, just so that when this board chooses to move on this application, I'm just going to incorporate by reference, to incorporate as a condition what you have spelled out for us tonight, just to make sure that we have it. And when staff puts it in as a condition, everybody knows what it is that we're voting on, and that will be a condition.
Yes, Chairman, I would be very happy to. And I'd also like to note, both for Member Schuster and Andrew, my apologies. I perhaps was under the misimpression that because the written comment period, including supplemental, was closed, that it would be inappropriate to submit something more in writing to the board. Sounds like I might have had a swing and a miss on that one. So I know better now for the future. I did send the proposed conditions to Andrew, as he noted, about an hour ago, sort of as if you were willing to vote along the lines of what we had proposed. I wanted him and his staff to have our proposed very specific language. But again, this one's on me, and not done intentionally for any nefarious purpose, other than apparently I need to reread your rules, or perhaps if I have a question, I should reach out and call Andrew. So I am very sorry about that. Did not mean to take anyone aback or put them on the spot. And I appreciate the live time discussion and consideration. So to your request, Mr. Chairman, sort of high level, and then I will actually read into the record, if it helps, the proposed language that I sent to Andrew. What we are proposing is a 9-year, I guess, phased down, phase out condition TDM measure, whereby the 15 parking spaces that are made available to residential residents of the building, are provided with MBTA passes and bike share passes as follows. In years 1, 2, and 3, anyone renting a parking space will be provided at sort of first issuance of that rental space, 6 months of the MBTA passes and 6 months of the bike share passes. And at any turnover of the rental of those parking spaces during years 1, 2, and 3, those are the conditions and the passes that will be provided, 6 months of each pass. During years 4, 5, and 6, following the occupancy permit, anyone renting a parking space in the building, residential tenants will be provided 4 months of passes, both MBTA passes and bike share passes, whenever those parking space rentals turn over. And then at years 7, 8, and 9, 2 months of passes, MBTA passes, and bike share passes at any turnover of those rental spaces. And slightly more technical, but given that this is the language we have proposed, I will read it into the record. We propose that condition number 7 be stated and rewritten as follows. The property owner shall provide up to 2 MBTA monthly link pass or an equivalent stored value MBTA Charlie card to each adult lessee in a residential tenant household renting a vehicular parking space within the building during the first month of the initial parking space rental as follows. 1, from the final certificate of occupancy for the building through the 3rd anniversary of the final certificate of occupancy of the building, each month for a minimum of 6 months. 2, from the 3rd anniversary of the final certificate of occupancy for the building through the 6th anniversary of the final certificate of occupancy of the building, each month for a minimum of 4 months. And 3, from the 6th anniversary of the final certificate of occupancy for the building through the 9th anniversary of the final certificate of occupancy of the building, each month for a minimum of 2 months. This requirement renews each time a new residential tenant rents a parking space within the building up and through the 9th anniversary of the final certificate of occupancy for the building. And condition number 8 reads the same, except instead of MBTA passes, it is bike share membership. So I will not torture you with reading of all of that into the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is actually very, very helpful, and and it'll make the staff's recitation of the board's vote a lot clearer. So now that we know what it is that we're voting on, or what it is that's been proposed, Amelia, I saw your hand.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say I'm sympathetic to the fact that Mobility has not yet had a chance to review this proposal, and that it runs counter to Mobility's standard conditions. And I would love to take a vote on this evening, but if there was a sentiment to hold it one more week until we had Mobility sign off on that condition, I personally, as one member, would be open to that.
So my only thought about not continuing this further is Mobility's initial sentiment that everybody gets 1 month, and this is in effect giving more to people that will be more impactful. So I would like to think that Mobility will be on board with this, but I'm also happy to move forward tonight. I think this is exactly what we were asking for, and this is what the applicant was able to provide us. Anybody else have any thoughts on that concern? Okay. That case, checking one more time before I toggle away. Seeing none. Following public testimony, review of the submitted materials, and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the zoning ordinance, I move to approve with the conditions laid out in the staff memorandum and as delineated here tonight, that will be incorporated with the language read into the record by the applicant's attorney. Those conditions to the major amendment to a previously approved general building in the MR6 zoning district, P&Z 21-029, which required site plan approval and a special permit for household living. Seconded by Amelia. Raisa, can you please call it?
This is Raisa speaking. Michael Capuano,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. We have a unanimous vote. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is the applicant at 2 to 4 Alpine Street. So if the applicant and their team can please be recognized, unmuted, shared, whatever we're gonna have.
This is Raisa speaking. Anne, I do see Anne's hand raised. Anne Vigorito, you have been unmuted. You may be self-mute on your end.
Good evening, Raisa. Good evening, members of the Planning Board. Attorney Anne Vigorito, 424 Broadway, Somerville. Also joined this evening, and I would ask that Philip Sema from Balance Architects be made a presenter because he has our renderings and so forth and plans. Also, Alon Sassoon is on, so if he could also be unmuted if necessary.
And can I ask, has your team presented or created anything that was different from what we saw before? I know that there was an updated review by, I think it might have been one of the city departments on some
Yes,
reasonably minor things. But if you all don't have anything new to present to us.
We really don't, Chairman Capuano. There was a small change to the AHIP, which is in the updated staff report where one of the 1 beds was switched out for a 2-bed. You know, and that's it. That really is it, you know, and of course, I don't need to, you know, we don't need to regurgitate it. You know, the board was very, you know, asked quite a few questions. I felt like you were very comfortable, but if you have any further questions for myself, the applicant developer, or our architect, Mr. Seema, you know, we're here ready to answer them.
I see his hand.
Thank
Yes,
you, Mr. Chair. I did notice that an updated set of landscape plans was submitted, and I could not immediately identify what had changed in them. It would be helpful if there is an explanation for that.
sure. If Mr. Seema could be allowed to do that, that would be great. And I will mute myself.
Hi, everyone. This is Phil Seema from Balance Architects. The updated landscape there was just some questions about calculations of permeable area, I think green roof area, and there was a small lack of coordination between the architectural ground floor and landscape plans. At one point, we had showed outdoor seating. The landscape plans were still showing that, but that had been removed because zoning didn't allow that. So nothing really substantial, just making sure that we were meeting all the zoning regulations.
Got it. Thank you for confirming.
And I think, and if staff can confirm, I think those are the minor revisions that we had gotten from the relevant department. Is that right? If I recall, it was something like soil depth and things that are very, very technical that don't impact, I think, the overall landscape presentation that was made as part of this application.
Mr. Chair, through you, this is Emily Hutchings. I'm here in place of Wendy Chekowitz, who is the case planner for this case, but she's not available tonight. That is correct. There were very minor changes to update the landscape plan to address comments on the known soil depth of the roof, updating the green score, which remains compliant, and confirm it. And so there's that's I think the extent of the landscape plans piece. I do have a note here that the Public Space and Urban Forestry Division wanted to note that the applicant needs an agreement from the MBTA for being in the within 30 feet of the community path. A condition was added that this needs to be done before the building permit, although I do believe that there is already an agreement in place.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, Emily, this is Attorney Vigorito. Mr. Sassoon has been working with the MBTA, and he does have that. And if there's anything further, he has a straight path to who he needs to connect with. So that will be done. Thank you.
So this condition is already met. It sounds like. Yes, Amelia.
So with respect to the landscape plan, we had some discussion at the previous meeting and received public comment in writing as well regarding the use of native species for the trellis configuration. And I don't think I saw that plant species specified in the updated landscape plans, and I wonder if that's something that we want to address or be responsive to in any fashion.
Yeah, I don't think we did address that, but I remember it was a honeysuckle, and certainly we can add that as a condition. That seemed like a great choice for that area.
We could add a condition specifying that it be a native planting or the specific native honeysuckle that was suggested. That would be, I would appreciate that if that's something other members are open to.
Well, I'm fine with that. I'd like to leave it somewhat open because I'm a little bit concerned about this board getting into the very nitty-gritty details within legally binding conditions. But to leave it generally open like that to have the appropriate native planting, I think is something that's appropriate. Anybody else? I appreciate all of your hard work in bringing us what I think is a very acceptable and very nice application. I'm glad that the AHIP changed a little bit more in the favor of slightly larger unit. If nobody has any comments or questions at this time, I'd like to move forward with this application. Okay, seeing none, following public testimony, review of the submitted materials and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the zoning ordinance, I move to approve with the conditions outlaid in the staff memorandum, the site plan approval to develop a 4-story general building in the mid-rise 4 zoning district, seconded by Amelia. Raisa,
This is Raisa speaking. Michael Capuano,
aye.
Emilia Aboff,
Aye.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
And following public testimony, review of the submitted materials and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the ordinance, I move to approve with conditions outlined by the staff memorandum and as discussed further tonight, a special permit to establish a household living use in the mid-rise 4 zoning district. Seconded by Amelia. If we can have the roll call.
This is Raisa speaking. Michael Capuano,
Aye.
Emilia Aboff,
Aye.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
We have a unanimous vote. Thank you to the applicant and congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you
so
so
much.
much, Chairman Capuano, members of the planning board. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful, happy holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thank you, you too. Okay, next up, I'd like to bring 288 Highland Ave to the floor. If you can please identify yourselves and members of your team as necessary, and make sure if you have a presentation, make sure that you're able to do that.
This is Raisa speaking. I do see a Lauren Ferenga Cosmetis hand raised. Lauren, you have been unmuted. Maybe self-muted on your end. Please let me know if you would like to be the presenter for tonight.
Yes, I would like to be the presenter. Thank you.
This is Raisa speaking again. You have been promoted to a panelist. Lauren, you should be able to share your screen at this time.
Hello, my name is Lauren Ferenga Cosmedes. Thank you, Chairman and members of the board, for hearing us tonight. I'm the owner of Lotus Yoga Studio here in Arlington, and we are hoping to open a second location over in Somerville at 288 Highland Ave. I do have a little presentation to share with you guys. I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to kind of get through it quickly. Feel free to ask any questions. Let's see. It's telling me host disabled participant screen share.
This is Raisa speaking. You should be able to share your screen at this time. You have the permissions.
Okay, when I'm clicking share screen, it's giving me that message. Yeah, it's saying that host disabled participant screen sharing, but I'm trying to click the screen share button. Is there another option, another way to go about it?
This is Raisa speaking. Just give me one moment.
Sure. Sorry, everyone.
Technology is wonderful because it allows us to be in the same place from different places, but it also provides its hassles.
That it can, yes.
This is Raisa speaking again. You can try again. You should have the permission at this time to share your screen.
There we go. Got it. Thank you so much. Okay. So, thank you all again for taking the time. I'm Lauren from Lotus Yoga Studio. We are applying for a special permit in this space to be have it be used as a yoga studio. It is a MR4 mid-rise building, and we would be on the commercial first floor in the residential space. In the commercial space of that building. I'll skip the video for time purposes. If it'll let me. So essentially, our yoga studio, this is our mission statement here. We are really all about creating community and emphasizing making yoga accessible. So at Lotus Yoga Studio, we believe yoga can empower all people to embrace their true selves through mindfulness, compassion, and connection. We put people first in our yoga practice. We emphasize being present and connecting mind with body, individualizing your practice, and building community together. We embrace the 8 limbs of yoga in everything we do, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that means as far as how we like to give back to community and create safe spaces. Lotus Yoga Studio proudly welcomes all genders, races, ages, abilities, orientations, religions, backgrounds to the yoga studio, and we truly believe that yoga is for everybody. Lotus Yoga is also a LGBTQ woman-owned business. And we like to bring that to the forefront because I think representation is important in the small business world. If these values outlined in our mission statement align with you, we love you to come practice at Lotus. And through this mission statement, we have built a really beautiful community at our Arlington location. And people are super excited for this location because many of them are actually living in Somerville and Medford and traveling. Because there's not a lot of studios available in Somerville at this time. So here's a picture of a few of our classes, a little bit more about sort of what we do. So we believe in giving back and breaking down barriers to yoga practice. So what that means is we do yoga mat donation programs. During the pandemic, we donated over 250 yoga mats and yoga straps and blocks so our community members could practice safely at home. We do give back programs, so we will go into communities that wouldn't otherwise have access to yoga. We've gotten grants to help bring yoga into various communities, senior living centers, homeless shelters. Right now, we're doing some volunteer work with an organization in New Hampshire, virtually teaching for the blind. So it's just really an important part of what we do to involve community and reach out and really get involved in the neighborhood that we're in to try and bring more health and wellness to those people. So we do this by offering yoga classes, meditation classes, again, really emphasizing that yoga is for everyone and everybody. We do classes in person. We also have classes online. So throughout the pandemic, we were able to bridge that gap and continue to serve our community and really not just serve the community, but keep the community together. All of our workshops, all of our gatherings and parties, we moved those online as well. And it was a really beautiful way to keep everyone connected and stay together. And that's helped us thrive as we've come out of the pandemic into where we are now, which is year 5. We do we do outdoor summer classes as well. We do some that are part of our regular schedule and then some that are part of our free yoga summer program. And I've been running this program since before I even opened a yoga studio. And teachers volunteer. We go into the park and we offer free classes on the weekends. Anyone can join. It's really nice. People bring their dogs, their kids. They just grab a towel, hang out. It's a beautiful way to connect with community and get people interested in health and wellness. We also do workshops, trainings, retreats. We're in our 4th teacher training right now, which is going great. And we also offer some one-on-one health and wellness services, Reiki and private yoga. A few more of our yoga classes here. As you can see, we really like variety, but also offering some specialized things so that there's safe spaces for different bodies, creating access through ASL yoga, prenatal yoga, those who want to take their yoga practice a little more intensely, intermediate yoga, as well as more gentle healing things, restorative, chakra flow. We're doing a sound bath experience. A lot of these events here, these are often free community events. So our yoga book club we do pretty regularly. That's always a fun, big gathering at the studio. Kind of turns into like a fun potluck discussion. We do annual parties. We do our yoga in the park. We do the fitness crawl. We have done So Far Sounds concerts. So we really, again, just community involvement is very important to us, and our community continues to grow and thrive and just really love getting together. So we're hoping that we can bring all of this and all of this intentionality into our new space and into our new neighborhood in Somerville as well. Just a few more of the events and such that we've been offering. As we all know, there's many benefits to yoga, more than just 10, but these were noted by a study that was done last year. And we know that when we live in places that offer health, fitness, exercise, access to healthy food, restaurants, grocery stores, that people have better health outcomes. They rate their general well-being as being happier, healthier, more satisfied, and they tend to enjoy where they live more. So when we create more opportunities for healthier living, it makes healthy lifestyles more accessible and everyone in that neighborhood benefits. And through our community gatherings and our trainings, we're emphasizing that healthy lifestyle. We go into offices, we've got our kids yoga, we do chair yoga. So again, just really bringing yoga where the people are, where they need it, and then also having our centralized studio locations where people can come and practice and train with us. So for Somerville, during the pandemic, a lot of yoga studios had to close, and that was definitely a scary time for us as well. But we were able to make it through. And unfortunately in Somerville, not as many studios were able to make it through. And the beloved O2 Yoga, which was in this space for over 20 years, closed around that time. So that left a bit of a gap in the yoga world for Somerville residents. And what we've heard from a lot of the residents in the neighborhood who are supportive of this, they're just passing by as we're, going in and out of the space, doing some work and things like that. They're telling us that they're just so excited and they really want the space to be filled, and they're glad that it's going to be yoga again. In the past, 288 Highland was used for yoga for over 20 years, and it was a mainstay in the neighborhood. Lotus Yoga Studio wants to continue that tradition by creating a welcoming, safe, and accessible yoga and wellness space. Because the space was used as a yoga studio as recently as 2021, there's no physical changes that need to be made to the space. So it's really an easy move in for us, which means that hopefully we can more quickly access and bring this wonderful practice to all of the residents. The space would be open 7 days a week, offering workshops, trainings, classes, and one-on-one sessions during the day. And as is our mission statement, we would love to get involved with the local community and give back the same way we've been doing at our Somerville location, and get involved in our Arlington location and get involved in our new Somerville location. Opening Lotus Yoga in Somerville will also help bring more customers to other local businesses as more people come into Somerville, and also just sort of gets the residents of that area walking about, moving around. I love at our current studio, which is, sort of at a similar intersection, just seeing on a busy weekend morning, people going from yoga down to the juice bar, over to the coffee shop, and they're gathering there and they're sharing space, and they're also visiting and supporting other local businesses, which I think is really cool and just helps to build up that community. All right. So this is sort of a mock-up here of the outside of the Somerville one. This is our current Arlington spot. When we announced that we were going to be opening the second location, we got a lot of support from the community, and started to find out that many of our students were actually already traveling from Somerville and Medford to Arlington, and we're really glad to have something that was closer to where they're currently living. So we did get a lot of letters of support. Unfortunately, there was a mix up on how they need to be submitted, and I was not able to submit them ahead of time. I have a few here that I just wanted to quickly highlight. A lot of them are talking about that Lotus would be a phenomenal addition to the neighborhood. Lauren and the Lotus team would be such wonderful additions to any community, but especially here in Somerville. At the Arlington location, I've seen the team develop beautiful network of people of all ages and abilities and create a safe, welcoming space for yoga and mindfulness. Lauren's approach is one of abundance and connection with the self and community, and I've seen firsthand how this creates warmth and safety in her space, and she trains and hires teachers who bring the same values to their classes. Her group of instructors are trauma-informed, diverse, fun, and ultimately equipped to help students move through their mental and physical practices safely and honor yoga's roots outside of the Western concept of fitness. And then she talks a little bit about the community events and how she's tried many studios in the Boston area, but finding this particular friendly environment is difficult to find elsewhere. So that's a student who's been practicing with us for a little while now. This is another student, Daniel, showing support.
Lauren,
Hello, sorry, yes.
can I just ask, because we're also going to be taking public testimony.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering if we might be able to, so I appreciate the background of your studio, and obviously I'm very well aware of the old O2 studio that was there for a very long time and a community mainstay. I'm wondering if you might be able. So obviously you've got some letters of support from your clients and supporters. I'm wondering if there is more of a zoning base, because you talked about the fact that basically there's no moving logistics because you're going from an old use to an existing use of what you're already doing. I'm wondering if there is anything that you want to raise with us related to the specific zoning aspect of this. Obviously it's the same use to the same use, but in the intervening period of time, I think the underlying zoning changed, which is, it seems like it's probably somewhat of a technicality for you coming before us because it's not a change of use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be used as the same use it was previously. There's really nothing that we need to do physically to adjust the space, just sort of redoing it in our branding, essentially. So that's going to be really easy. Transportation, it's right on the bus line. There's public parking available. And part of our mission is to encourage our students to use public transportation, walk, ride your bike, make more eco-friendly choices. There's really nothing specifically that is changing in the space. And like I said, the transportation is easy. We're generally going to be a quiet bunch. Are there any specific questions you had for me in regards to the space or any of the zoning questions?
I actually have a question that I came to me when you were kind of discussing some of your outdoor programming. So where are you currently in Arlington, and where do you do that outdoor programming? And do you expect to continue doing something like that in the Somerville location, and where are you thinking about doing that?
Absolutely, yes. So every year we apply for an outdoor permit for an Arlington park. Typically try to choose one that's pretty close to the studio, just so it's easier for people to locate. And we'll sort of have a set schedule of what those classes are. So the permit, if it's a shared use park, that we're not overstepping like soccer games or, kids' birthday parties or things like that. And we've been doing that for a few years now in Arlington, and that's gone really well. And we would absolutely love to do that in Somerville as well, choosing a park that was close to the studio.
That's a great idea. I love it. Thank you. Do you have anything else that you'd like to present to us? Because I would love to get to public testimony if there is any.
No, I just had some letters of support. We've got more support through social media, etc. Where the people in the actual building are in support. The owner of the building is in support. So hopefully other people are too. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you. Is there any questions or comments by members of the planning board or of the applicant or of staff at this time before I open up public testimony? Seeing none, what I'd like to do is open up this public hearing for oral testimony. I'd like to recognize anybody that wants to speak in support of the application. If you can please click the raised hand button and I will call you in the order in which I see you. Going once, going twice, seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the public hearing and open it up to anybody. Oh, I actually see someone who just raised their hand. Federica Torre, if I could please have Federica be unmuted.
This is Raisa speaking. Federica, you have been unmuted. You may be self-muted on your end. Please
Hello.
state your name and street of address before you speak, please.
Hello, everyone. My address is 6 Clifton Street in Somerville, and I wanted to share my support to the opening. I'm definitely one of the people that is very excited to have yoga again and being able to walk to it. And what Lauren has created it has really personally changed my life in the last year, and I can't wait to have such a healing place close to my home. So definitely support, glowing support.
Thank you very much, Federica.
You're welcome.
Anybody else wants to speak in support of the application, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Once, going twice, seeing none, I will close that portion of the public hearing and open it up to anybody that wants to speak in opposition to the application or otherwise express concern. Please click the raised hand button. Going once, going twice, seeing none, I close that portion of the public hearing and throw it back to my fellow board members for any discussion on this or any questions of the applicant or questions to staff. Okay. Seeing none, I will just say, Lauren, thank you. It looks like you're an absolute slam dunk case. This is one of those rare ones where it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, you're going in from a previous use that was the exact same thing that what you're doing now. You seem like a wonderful person. It seems like you run a wonderful, inclusive business. So we will welcome you to the neighborhood.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so let me get down here. Following public testimony, review of the submitted materials and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the zoning ordinance, I move to approve with the conditions outlined in the staff memorandum, the special permit to establish a fitness service principal use along a pedestrian street in the mid-rise Ford district. Seconded by Amelia. Raisa, if you are amenable to calling the roll.
This is Raisa speaking. Michael Capuano,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
We have unanimous vote. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice night. And last but certainly not least, the applicant at 30 Bow Street. So if they have an applicant, a team, a representative, whoever might need to be unmuted and shared and all sorts of good things. Let's talk.
This is Raisa speaking. I do see a hand raised for a Michael Barone and a Lauren Friel. Michael, I will unmute you first. Please let me know who will be the presenter for tonight.
Good evening. Thank you very much. This is Michael Barone with Roberto Israel and Weiner, 255 State Street, on behalf of Modern Love LLC, doing business as Wild Child. With me tonight is Lauren Friel. She is the proprietor. Our plan for this evening, I do think if you could allow Lauren to unmute, that would be great. I intend to present the application I do have a presentation, and then Lauren will take any particular operational questions.
This is Raisa speaking. Michael, you have been promoted to a panelist, and you should be able to share your screen once you return. Lauren, you have been unmuted. You may be self-muted on your end.
Thank you. I'll mute myself until he's done presenting.
Thank you. I will share now. All right. Great. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Again, my name is Michael Barone, 255 State Street, here on behalf of Modern Love LLC, doing business as Wild Child, and I believe Lauren introduced herself. We are here this evening to request an application for a special permit allowing the retail sale of alcohol on the ground floor space at 30 Bow Street, located in the MR3 Mid-Rise 3 zoning district, pursuant to Table 4.1.13 and Section 4.1.13B of the Somerville zoning ordinance. I know this was all provided in the materials, but I'd like to provide a little bit of background on Wild Child. The shop is currently located in Bow Market, occupying a significantly smaller space, frequently hosting food and wine-related events, including educational experiences. The shop is a very welcoming space, offering natural wines, food-related literature, and culinary ephemera. Wild Child hosts numerous weekly and monthly events, including wine classes, speaker series, and author talks. The existing location and the proposed space will serve as the base of operations for Wild Child's already very popular wine club. So on this slide, I've tried to demonstrate the proximity of the current location, which is indicated on the left with a star, and the proposed location, which is outlined on both the left photo as well as the right. As you can see, Wild Child is not moving very far. After 5 years in Bow Market, the company is looking to settle into a larger, more permanent location. So while this is a small move, it will have big results for the company. For a little bit of background here, most people are aware, and I'm sure this board is very much aware, Bow Street is a mix of commercial and residential uses. So we do not believe that Wild Child will be out of place, and we don't anticipate any undue attention. So I've provided some photos here of the front of the location, as well as the side here in the walkway, or the driveway rather. So a little bit of background about the proposed operations. This new location will allow Wild Child to grow as a business, expanding its reach and becoming a more permanent fixture in the community. Although programming will remain mostly the same, the new location provides much more space and allows for a greater offering of natural wines. Additionally, the license will allow Wild Child to expand the existing wine club, both in size and variety, and launch an e-commerce platform. This will allow patrons to view stock online, order, and pick up in store. The closest shop with substantially similar offerings, meaning a focus on rare and fine natural wines, is about 2 miles away in Porter Square. So I wanted to provide a little bit of background, even though this is a use-related request, about the floor plan. So the intention here is to use this space, again, kind of bifurcate, or not bifurcated, but split it up to cater towards the wine and classroom style seating for wine class in the back. That's an existing set of events that are often hosted at the existing location. The center would be the refrigerated beer and wine, and up front would be more of the ephemera, the cookbooks, and the wine. Additionally, as part I'll say not as part of this application, but as a related application, in order to make the space accessible, the applicant is also seeking to remodel the back porch. Again, this is not before this board, but I thought it was pertinent to the conversation. So generally, no operations will occur outside, but in an effort to provide accessibility, the applicant is proposing removing the existing wood deck in the rear and replacing that with a slightly smaller deck, but a mechanized wheelchair lift for accessibility. So we did submit an application to the Historic Preservation Commission, and we are tentatively scheduled for their February 6th meeting. So we did conduct the city's required community outreach, and to that extent, we conducted a neighborhood meeting on August 16th. And at the recommendation of Councillor Ewan Campen, we also conducted a supplemental on-site meeting with neighbors, predominantly the neighbors on either side, on September 15th. Details regarding those meetings are included in the neighborhood meetings report that was submitted with the application. Generally, as addressed in the meeting report, there were discussions as to concerns relative to traffic, parking, general congestion, as well as the reality of operating commercial uses next to residential homes. The applicant intends to mitigate neighbor concerns relative to traffic and pedestrian congestion by posting signage to discourage patrons from blocking driveways and also from using the premises' driveway to access Bow Market. The applicant's also committed to working with the neighbors on either side to minimize impact to their respective families, such as potentially putting up some fencing, as well as introductions with store staff to some of the families in the adjacent properties.
Can I ask a question? If you could just go back one
Sure.
slide. Attending to the concern on traffic, parking, congestion, could you give us a breakdown of the size difference and generally the capacity difference between your existing space in Bow Market and the premises that you're seeking a permit for tonight?
Sure. So I will defer to Lauren on the existing size of the existing location in Bow Market, but I can tell you that this new location is just over 1,100 square feet. And we do, at the existing location, rely heavily on pedestrian and bicycle traffic. We expect that to continue to be the same here, but I will allow Lauren to speak a little bit on that as she has more intimate knowledge.
Thanks.
Hi there. Thanks everyone for your time tonight. So to speak to your question about capacity, this would increase our capacity about twofold. That being said, the actual area where we intend to host the classes and kind of the bulk of our events is smaller size than the area that we currently host events in. So the rest of, thank you. Yeah, you can see in this rear kind of area here, that's roughly the same. It's slightly smaller than the space that we occupy now. In terms of our occupancy, kind of general day-to-day occupancy, it's difficult for us to predict, however, I don't foresee us being kind of shoulder to shoulder with guests in the space just for general shopping of our inventory, if that's a helpful answer to your question.
It is. So I'm looking at it and thinking that kind of the critical mass of people that would be together at one time would probably be for a class. And you just mentioned that the space for that is slightly smaller than the space that you use now. So
that's correct.
That's helpful to know. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you, Lauren. So now I guess we'll get into the real nuts and bolts of the special permit here, because we do know that we are introducing a package store into an area or a building that currently doesn't have one. So we are of the opinion that the benefits to the city and the neighborhood resulting from this proposed bottle shop will outweigh the adverse effects. Specifically, the applicant is unique in that this is more than just a place to buy wine. It's also a place for community to learn about and experience the culture of wine. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but it is worth noting that this is intended to be a boutique bottle shop. This is not going to be a typical package store. There won't be any sort of convenience aspect relative to cigarettes or nips or anything like that. Again, this is just malt and wine with a heavy focus on wine and natural wines at that. And like any of the commercial uses which are encouraged in the MR3 district, the use will result in some traffic and parking. However, as I mentioned earlier, the existing business is derived predominantly from pedestrian and bike traffic. We expect that to continue. And we also expect that the e-commerce arm of the business should really encourage shorter parking stays to the extent people do come via vehicle and have a quicker turnover of spaces. It's not like a restaurant or a significant retail location that people are going to come and spend significant amounts of time.
So you're suggesting, if I can just clarify what you're saying, you're suggesting like an order in advance, come in and pick up your order and leave type of sales model as well?
Correct. Yeah. So in addition to having bottles on the shelf, there will be an online stock inventory that customers can view. They can order ahead of time and come pick up, or they can view and then come in and browse the shop as well. It is intended to provide that kind of convenience to neighbors and to anybody who may be coming maybe a farther distance for the specific varieties that are carried at Wild Child. So specifically, Somerville's zoning ordinance identifies 3 particular considerations for special permits. The first is that the proposed use should be in, or rather that the comprehensive plan and the existing policy should be considered. We're of the opinion that the proposed use is in harmony with Somerville's comprehensive plan. Not only is this a homegrown small business here in Somerville, but it's also a woman-owned business that is looking to grow and expand and stay within the city limits. The business model incorporates principles that are intended to foster Somerville's diversity relative to both the people and the culture that the city fosters right now. Second, the intent of the zoning district indicates that this use is very much in harmony with the Mid-Rise 3 zoning district. That zoning district is intended to create smaller scale, multi-use buildings, providing quality commercial uses serving the neighborhoods. This proposed bottle shop is indeed a small scale, quality bottle shop already serving and contributing to the community, serving as that first floor commercial retail use. Beyond the commercial benefits, the applicant also offers a mix of culture and education about the products being sold. So it's not a sterile environment that you go in, it's just products for sale, but you also get a significant amount of information and learning opportunities about each of the products being sold. Third, the ordinance requires consideration of special consideration. So in this case, because it is a packaged liquor store, we're supposed to look at the concentration of packaged liquor stores. In this case, the concentration of packaged stores in the neighborhood really isn't changing. As I indicated earlier, the applicant's merely relocating from only a couple 100 feet away. And also, unlike a traditional package store, the applicant offers a boutique experience with a unique selection. This is not a typical package store or liquor store like we mentioned earlier. The inventory is very niche, and it really attracts those looking specifically for rare and fine wines and the culinary ephemera we mentioned earlier. And we are happy to take any questions that you may have, and I'm happy to go back to any slides that may be of assistance.
I appreciate the presentation. I recognize that the 2 concerns that I remember from the staff memorandum that summarized the community meeting was a concern about congestion and parking, and was also inquiring about the nature of a store that sells alcohol on a somewhat residential street. So I appreciate you addressing the congestion issue that I asked about earlier, and I also recognize that this is the way you've described it, not a package store the way one would think about it, right? You're not going to have, from what I understand your presentation to be, you're not going to have somebody buying scratch tickets and nips and cigarettes and beer and stuff like that. It's kind of as you said, a more boutique experience. I'm very familiar with this type of a shop. There's a place in Yarmouth Port that I go to a lot that's very, very similar to this. It's in a somewhat of a downtown area, but it's also adjacent to a lot of homes. They have wine programs, so I absolutely see exactly what you're trying to do. So I appreciate that. Does anybody have any comments or questions of the applicant or of staff at this time before I open it up to public testimony? Yeah, Amelia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the applicant, I was just wondering if you could clarify how like loading and stocking of the shop will work. Will that be via the new accessible? It seemed challenging to imagine stocking a wine shop using stairs. So I was just curious how you plan to handle that.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I fully understand the kind of concern there with stocking a wine shop using stairs. That being said, I've been in charge of wine programs in Boston for over 15 years and worked in all manner of very old buildings that house restaurants and shops in the Camberville area. And the delivery guys are very adept with their dollies and go up and down stairs on, dozens of times a day. It was something that was brought up by the neighbors as well in our independent meeting. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it's 4 or 5 steps up the front entrance, the primary entrance, was the preferred entrance from the neighbors. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So whatever that is, 3 steps, 4 steps. Is well within the realm of reasonable for delivery drivers to go up and down. And so it was I agreed to direct deliveries to the front entrance.
Thank you for clarifying.
And also to your point, I don't think I raised this earlier, but I did just want to clarify. The intention is for the front entrance to be the primary entrance. The rear entrance obviously being towards the back and immediately adjacent to a residential neighbor is not one we want people frequenting in and out other than for the accessibility purposes.
Thank you. Amelia, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I mean, I also note that, it is Bow Street and there are a number of other, food and drink related, establishments, right next to you and across the street from you. So it's not something that, I think is going to be terribly, terribly impactful, but I'd love to be able to.
Mr. Chair, I wasn't concerned about the loading on the street. I was just curious about whether the loading would be happening through the ADA appendage on the back.
I see. I understand. Okay. Thanks, Amelia. Thanks for the clarification. What I'd like to do is open up the hearing for public testimony for anybody that would like to speak in support of the application. If you could please click the raise hand button and I will call on you in the order in which I see you. I see Gerard's iPhone.
This is Raisa speaking. Gerard, you have been unmuted. You may be self-mute on your end.
Hello?
Hello?
Is this muted?
Nope, we can hear you.
Is it unmuted now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can speak.
Oh. Gerard Emerald, 345, 347, 349, Somerville Ave.
Hey, Joe.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As a budding business owner and resident owner, I showed up to show support for this particular applicant for her new store, and it's always great to see new businesses moving into the city, and hopefully they'll continue around the corner, creating that commercial corridor that we so much want to see in the city of Somerville. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. It's always good to hear from you.
All right.
Anybody else like to speak in support of the application? Please raise your hand. Going once, going twice. I'll close that portion of the public hearing and open it up to anybody that would like to speak in opposition of the application or otherwise express concern. Please click the raise hand button and I'll call on you in the order in which I see you. Once, twice. Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the public hearing and bring it back to discussion by and between members of the board and the applicant and staff. Does anybody have any comments or questions that they'd like to raise? Can I ask staff, do the conditions that are laid out in the memorandum address the concerns that were raised by members of the neighborhood in the meeting that was held?
Hello, Mr. Chair, through you, Andrew Graminsky, a case planner for this project. Staff did not recommend specific mitigation that was discussed in the neighborhood meeting documents. Staff felt that the applicant was going to be providing adequate mitigation to address those concerns after having those formal conversations on site. The one condition that staff did propose was that the special permit would be attached to the applicant and not the property to also help alleviate some of those concerns. More specifically about future oriented alcohol retail sales uses that could be more typical to what one thinks of an alcohol or liquor store, package store. I hope that helps answer your question. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you're on mute.
I said the most beautiful things. What I'd like to do is put the planning board in a very, very brief recess for about 2 minutes. I just want to clear something up with staff before we move forward on this application. So it's 7:42. We will reconvene at 7:45. So just be right back. I believe all relevant parties are now back. So the planning board is now out of recess and back in session. Everything is all set. I just need to clarify one thing with staff. Does anybody else have any further comments, questions on this application before we move forward? Okay. Seeing none, following public testimony, review of the submitted materials, and deliberations of the required considerations outlined by the zoning ordinance, I move to approve with conditions outlined in the staff memorandum, the special permit to establish an alcohol sales principal use along a pedestrian street in the Mid-Rise 3 district, seconded by Amelia. Risa, if you please call the roll.
This is Risa speaking. Michael Capuano,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
Okay, you have a unanimous vote. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all. So I do not believe that there is any other business before the planning board tonight. Seeing none, I realize we're not even at 8 o'clock yet, so good for us. And we've, with the exception of one continued case, cleared all family business. So if nothing further to add for the benefit of this meeting, chair moves to adjourn. Seconded by Amelia. Risa, please call the roll.
This is Risa speaking. Michael Capuano,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Luke Schuster.
Aye.
Thank you all very much for a great and effective meeting. I hope everybody has a great week and great holidays, and we will see you all again on January 4th. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Likewise. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so
Happy
much.
holidays.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Happy New Year. Take care.
Happy New Year. See you next year.
Happy New Year.
Absolutely.